We are looking at a blank solar disk here. It'll never be now again, folks. Welcome to the neo-renaissance. As astrophysics gets rewritten due to a legitimate understanding of how things like your local yellow dwarf work and what they're made of. Not to mention outside the solar system and indeed the galaxy. Here's a 304 angstrom view, and we're looking at a blank disk, no sunspots, a couple coronal holes. Before we move on to more data, let's talk cycling. Head to veloshop.net. Maybe buy yourself a cruiser. Check this one out. The women's Bixby single speed. A great prepping bike. This thing will work for ages with zero maintenance. 315 bucks. Available in various colors, such as key lime pie. By the way, if you want to sponsor cycling, head to GoFundMe. I just spent $92 on 2 tires for this bike right here. $92 for 2 tires, folks. Racing is a little expensive. Also, support us on Patreon, please. Be our 4th patron. We have started a nonprofit organization, The Long Arduous Process. And here's the mission, which is to assist, study, and report on the ongoing formation of unified theory of physics, to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space, weather, and Earth effects, and to connect and consult with media organizations to multiply our reach, demonstrate cutting-edge proof-of-concept solutions to problems, to publish scientific papers in a multidisciplinary manner, to assist mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomenon in order to optimize value, reduce risk and liability, save lives and resources, and adapt no matter what the adversity is, and to not be ossified in our beliefs and treat those who are with love, respect, and inclusion to the scientific discussion. Also support us on PayPal. One-time donations, whatever you like. PayPal.me/smAsho. Global warming update. The planet is so hot that it's cold. And that's why there are 15 feet of ice from coast to coast on Greenland. The U.S. is currently getting more snow. Planting is delayed in the U.S. and Canada due to snow, ice, and flooding. The U.S. has lost 40% of its grain stores as a result of flooding. And that is because of record snow in the Northern Hemisphere 2 years in a row. A late spring 2 years in a row, and an early winter 2 years in a row. Here's what Asia looks like, folks. You think they're planting stuff in the Ukraine and in Siberia right now, folks? Here's some more global warming info for you. We've got freeze warnings all over the U.S. We've got winter weather advisories. And don't forget flood watches all across the central U.S., further delaying spring plantings. Guess what, folks? Food prices are already rising, as we've seen an anecdotal account on Facebook about how Domino's Pizza has raised its prices. Viewers of our channel aren't going to be surprised by that. Also, I would invite you to head to iceagefarmer.com/map, as Mr. Westbrook has a global map of crop loss. And let's just zoom in on someplace, I don't know, maybe the U.S. Oh, let's check Kansas. Bitter cold causes winter kill to wheat belt. Frigid temperatures killing crops. Significant losses in Harvey's aftermath. Heavy rains problematic for Michigan turnip and radish season. And on it goes. iceagefarmer.com/map. Let's look at some solar data here. Here's the real-time solar wind. Phi angle nowhere near 180. That's a good sign for earthquakes. The BZ is converging on the 0 line here. BT is at about 5. Solar wind density has come up a lot since yesterday to 4.60 protons per cubic centimeter, and the speed has come down since yesterday to 303 kilometers per second. Here's the Gong 2 information to see the local heliosphere environment. If I could click on it, that would be great. There we go. And I guess I just got to click everything 2 or 3 or 4 times today, folks. Yes, I'm wrestling with software and hardware. This date is an hour and 25 minutes behind, and nothing too extravagant going on. I would invite you to spaceweather.com. Check out the sprites that were photographed in Kansas 2 days ago. Naked eye sprites, folks. Now, this is lightning that emanates right out of the thermosphere. If you weren't aware, head to spaceweather.com and check it out. 10.7 centimeter radio flux has come back up to 68 and then back down to 67 again. So solar minimum conditions are here, and we're not going to say a grand solar minimum because we're expecting another cycle similar to cycle 24, possibly even a little larger. And we're keeping track of the solar magnetic fields to try to have some level of prediction. Also, let's check out spaceweathernews.com. Thanks to Ben Davidson compiling all this data in the same place. So we see an utterly flatlined X-ray flux. Magnetometer is looking pretty smooth. And it's scrolling by itself, folks. It's scrolling by itself. KP is at 1. We seem to be having a bit of an electron shortage here. And it's not because of heavy-duty solar wind streams either. We did see some coronal mass ejections out of the western limb of the sun, and we'll get to it in a moment. No charging hazards. And the F2 layer is looking quite normal, actually. Now, if you like Ben Davidson, check out yesterday's video on Radiant Creators on YouTube, as there's a 2-hour interview. Let's play a clip.
But essentially, it talks about a magnetic null zone in the galaxy, which...
Anyway, he's talking about things like cosmology and the catastrophe cycle. It's better if you know about it than not. It's one of the more uncomfortable things that we shed light on this channel. Remember, the best way to destroy evil is to cast light on it. Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard. We can skip this for the day. Next, let's look at the total electron content. As we are seeing an electron shortage, folks. So you're not going to see very many GPS errors. Very low levels of electron flux. And there's your electron content forecast. Let's move on to the Magnetosphere movies, which are looking much more normal than they did yesterday. We'll let all of these play through. As a data archiving service. There's the velocity. See some plasma being expelled in the magnetotail region there on the equatorial plane side frame. And some striations in the solar wind speed coming in from the left. Here's the density. Much more dense environment in the magnetosphere today than yesterday, as these frames were completely white yesterday. If you want to check it out, watch yesterday's live stream. We do it every day, folks. And I'm not sure if we've gone through a full year yet. I guess I should go back and check. Although I've got a lot of stuff to do, I guess that's not really that important. Here's the pressure. Pressure's still pretty low overall. But much higher than it was yesterday. As current passes through the planet, we study the magnetohydrodynamics. Here are the magnetic ground perturbations. First at the poles. And we see the South Pole migrating toward Western Australia, as we typically do. And the main perturbations in the north are on the Canadian side, as they usually are also. We archive this every day. So if you want to see a week ago, go back 1 week, and our video will have it. Here's the global perspective. And we actually do see quite a bit of changes in the B field here. For those of you not familiar with magnetohydrodynamics, the B field is the field that passes through the magnet. For example, the sun's B field is the equatorial plane on which the planets orbit. Let's move on. Gotta refresh this one. theplanetstoday.com. Want a great solar system map? You want to see what's going to be out there? Why didn't it refresh? I seriously am clicking on every single thing twice today at least, folks. There's where the situation is currently. We're approaching a new moon. Let's advance it 1 week. Mercury overtaking Venus. Mars close to where stereo A is located, and Venus near where stereo B is located. If you're not familiar, stereo A is located about here, stereo B is located about here. Stick with us, there's a reason why we're telling you this. Because now we're going to look at the view from stereo A on the space weather coronagraph. Space weather beacon. This will show us any coronal mass ejections that are headed in the earthly direction. And if I could just click on stuff, I would be really, really happy and less enraged. Don't worry, folks. Not going to rage quit. Anyway, we did see some coronal mass ejections. They're just not Earth-facing. They came out of the western limb, and they're going to miss Earth to the west. There is a coronal hole wind stream on the way. We're expecting that May 2nd. Here's the Soho coronagraph, and you will see a couple of coronal mass ejections. There's one on the 27th right there. And then there's a little more ejecta coming out of the western limb there. Nothing to be concerned about. It looks like it's all going to miss to the west. We might see a couple little plasma density spikes on the solar wind, but nothing to get bunched up panties over. Also, I'd invite you to check out in-the-sky.org. I like to draw the ecliptic in, but if you go outside right now and you got clear skies, look on the ecliptic, you'll see Jupiter and Saturn. The moon has just risen. Neptune is out there also. You won't see it with the naked eye. And as I ask most days, where were you when Cygnus rose? I would also invite you to check out Zooniverse.org's Galaxy Zoo project, as we need citizen scientists to identify galaxies, as computers can't do it. So you have a few million to go, and set yourself up a login, maybe get published in a paper. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/smashomash. Follow us on Twitter. We don't tweet, but we allow you to share the videos there with your tweeting friends who don't have other social media. Follow us on Instagram, talking about how hot the planet is. So hot that it's cold. Here's a tidbit.
And it's April 29th in Fogelville, PA. 7:08 a.m. The temperature is 36 degrees.
And here's a confirmed report. The planet is so hot that it's cold. What do you think about that, folks? Oh, your globe is so warm. There's 15 feet of snow.
Global warming, folks, global warming. Global warming, global warming, global warming, global warming. Climate change, global warming, carbon dioxide. Transcribe that, Google. Also follow us on Minds, the social media site that will not censor you. You can also earn crypto by getting a lot of views. And our channel here has over 442,000. If you enjoy the music, check out the SoundCloud page, which is in the links underneath this video, and the SoundClick page, soundclick.com/goldencatproductions. Unified Theory 3 is about a unified theory of physics. You can purchase a song to add to your MP3 collection for only 99 cents. Do an earthquake update and blast through this. We see a deep quake at Japan. Warning Japan of a future quake at the surface. It's very deep, actually, 380 kilometers. Very deep quake. Here's a 4.4 in Russia at depth on the Kamchatka Peninsula. Here's a 4.7 on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, a 4.5 in China, a 4.7 in Chile. 6.2 in the Carlsberg Ridge area, west of India. Here's a 5.0 at depth in Argentina. A warning for a larger quake at the surface there. Here's a 4.7 at Burma. You may call it Myanmar, but it will always be Burma to Jay Peterman. 4.4 in Indonesia, 4.4 in Chile, 4.4 in Nicaragua. Here's a 4.8 in Indonesia at depth. 5.0 at the South Sandwich Islands, which used to be rare. Apparently it's not rare at times of solar minimum. Here's a 5.1 in Indonesia. It's the last quake, so let's check out tsunami.org. Tsunami.gov, rather. No watches, advisory, warnings, or threats, folks. That's a good thing. Let's look at volcanoes. Actually, let's look at pressure maps first. Looking for anomalous low pressure systems around places that have had deep earthquakes, such as Japan. Let's let this advance and see if anything forms. There is a low forming there in Japan. Heads up, Japan. You had a deep quake. There's a low moving up the plate boundary there. Be an asset, not a liability, in the event of a disaster. Volcanoes. Mount Agung back on the list. A very scary volcano, producing a 15,000-foot ash plume. Fuego, Revenador, and Sabancaya producing a 25,000-foot plume there. Don't fly over that in a hang glider. You may get dust in your eye. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar. We see snow falling once again in Nebraska, and in South Dakota, and in Wyoming, and in Colorado, and a bit in Maine, and a bit in Montana, and a bit in Oregon. Heavy rains and nasty storms over Kansas and Oklahoma and Missouri and Illinois, as if they need more flooding there. How about that late spring last year, folks? How about that late spring this year, folks? The planet is so hot that it's cold. What can I say? Let's zoom in on this area. Every click requires 2 clicks today, folks. It's really fun, and it doesn't make me want to drive a nail through my computer. There's a current situation. Ugh. Wow. AccuWeather's Doppler Radar. Thank you, AccuWeather.com. Good God. All right. Don't worry, folks. I'm not going to get a nail gun, and I'm not going to put a 12-gauge rifled slug through my computer today. let's look at the water vapor map as it needs some resubmission. Here's the overall image. And we've raised the resolution to make it a little more visually pleasing. Should be taking up your whole screen now as we take steps to make it look as good as possible. I even changed the resolution on my computer monitor so it fits correctly on a widescreen. So there we see that convergence zone coming out of Oklahoma, and everything is basically headed to the northeast, where it's going to kind of make a right at the Great Lakes, where it changes into more of an easterly pattern. Let's look at this convergence zone over Mexico, as it looks pretty freaky. I don't know why I keep zooming in and zooming out and doing things that I'm not doing, folks. So that's quite a convergence zone there over Mexico. We see intense Hall current lines there, perpendicular to the motion of the water vapor. And that is because electromagnetic fields run the weather and mostly everything that you do in your life. Let's do a zoom in of this convergence zone over the Kansas-Missouri border area. By the way, this track is called You, Me, Us and is available at soundclick.com/goldencatproductions. Links are in the description. Add it to your MP3 collection. It's 99 cents. So there's what the water vapor is doing. And the reason we show this is because the weather is often not evident by looking at Doppler radar. So we look at extra instruments so you don't have to. lightningmaps.org. Kansas City. It looks like it's going to miss you for now, but it might hit you a little later, Kansas City. Topeka's getting some strikes. Shout out Topeka. Going to attempt to bring out the chat here if anything loads. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance, folks. I clicked it once. You probably heard it through the audio. And then I clicked it again. As it is barely functioning. I think it's funny how my computer uses more resources making these videos than it does playing games, which I rarely do. Anyway, there's a lightning map. If you're not familiar with lightningmaps.org, it will actually show you the predicted sound wave pattern. And it might save you if it causes you to go inside when you ought not to be outside in a thunderstorm. We don't race bikes in severe thunderstorms. You shouldn't do much of anything. You won't be planting crops in one. Let's just say that. And by the way, none of those crop losses are priced into the stock market. Here's an article from Cosmos magazine. Quote, black hole, end quote, shoots plasma every which way. Why? Because black holes are not vacuums, they're fountains. Let me just say that again. Black holes aren't vacuums, they're fountains. Just like the sun. Anyway, this article about V404 Cygni, which is a very odd system. It is a binary, a supermassive object connected with a smaller object with a plasma bridge in between, which is fueling the stellar scale jets. If you want to look it up, just head to the Neil Gorell's Swift monitor and find V404. Click on that, and there's the transient analysis. It has just kicked up into a very, very dense phase here. Ignore this empty data, folks. This is a data loss, and they're trying to repair this now and get the correct data. They may never get the correct data for that. But these things are back to reading again. And if you're wondering what this is, well, we figured it out. In 2015, this happened. Now, if you look at this through X-ray, this would occupy a patch of sky equal to about half the diameter of the full moon. Because this thing emitted massive, massive novel dust rings. Here's what it did in only a matter of a few days. Again, this is X-ray frequency, folks. I will put links to this one in the description underneath the video. Here's an article that we covered earlier. In December 2018, because black holes don't resemble donuts or holes. They're nothing like holes. They're made of condensed matter, just like you and the sun and the earth. Here's a great diagram. We'll put links to this article also in the description after the live stream's complete. I would also invite you to check out Solan.info. As this site is updating regularly, we're looking at the 10.7 centimeter radial flux here. And there's all kinds of interesting data here. They're tracking cycle 25 sunspots, cycle 24 spots, updated April Fool's Day. So thanks for joining, everybody. Let me just bring up some extra images of the sun here, as we got some more data during the stream. And I'll click on it however many times it takes. You hear that? That was me clicking that button about 6 times. I would note one more thing, and it's that the North Pole coronal hole looks like it's shrinking again, which is probably a good sign, as we are looking at the North Pole. I only clicked that one 5 times, folks. Only 5. See an interesting streamer here. Little plasma jet being ejected out of the sun, it looks like, in a southerly direction, perhaps along the Z field. If you're not familiar with Z fields, let me zoom out so I can draw it for you. Z fields are the fields that come out of things like stars and planets out of the poles. It's a Birkeland current traveling in both directions, in and out, both ways. And those are the same fountains that produce stellar jets and things like black holes, galactic nuclei. It all works pretty much the same way, folks. It's a lot less mysterious than black holes and dark matter, because those things aren't real. Those are math in search of observations. All right, thanks for joining us, Pink Floyd from Poland. Cheers. Awesome, fantastic. Thank you, Harry, Kalo Jan, and everybody who watches this video in the future. Again, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. It'll never be now again. And when you're staring at the sun, don't drink it if you drink. Stare at the sun, just don't drive. And may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your arteries.